So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everybody who's watching this. It's Karen Dodd from Wise Women Weekdays. Please do the thumbs up, the like, and the comment. I think we're all obliged to say that these days if we're building a channel. My channel is really to connect with people that know what's going on and they've got things to say. Today, I'm being joined again by the lovely Paul English. We haven't spoken for a while. I'll bring him on in a minute. I have been away for a couple of months. Basically, I think I got a bit fed up with doing these. I love doing these, but when you do these videos, and I think many of us aren't trained in video, technology and editing and all this kind of stuff. For me, I do it to get information out to people, but then you have to edit and what have you, and it can take a long time. I'm not technical at all, but the last one I did, or the last but one I did 2 months ago, was with Vince and Stephen, these two military guys that are really fighting the fight, and it got taken down within 24 hours, and I just got fed up with it. So, welcome, Paul English. Love to need to have you back. What do you think about that? Do you get fed up with doing these things?
Yeah, I do. Great to be back, by the way, Karen. But yeah, I know
Yeah,
exactly what you're talking about. Like if I do a show, I've actually got it down to a fine art. But it took me about a year and a half. So, I mean, I'm doing audio, you do video. I'd love to do video, I think, but I just suspect that well, not the learning curve, the sort of maintenance of it would be off the charts, to be quite honest. I know people that are very competent at it and they go, oh, I've got to spend 4 hours editing down my 20-minute video. And I
yeah,
just go, that's great, but I just don't have these lumps of 4 hours floating around in my life anymore. They just don't exist, and I suspect it's similar for you. And
yeah,
it's a grind. So what I do with mine is I record it locally, just the audio file, and I usually have it published within about 20 minutes of the end of the show, which is before it was taking me ages. And I just sort of look at the file. I hack the bit off at the beginning where we're all mumbling and talking nonsense, and I hack the bit off at the end, and that's about it.
yeah.
And I prefer it because there's more things to say tomorrow, and I don't have enough time to sit around editing and making it all lovely. I mean, it's one
Yeah.
take, is this stuff, isn't it?
Yeah,
You can't do
I
post-production editing. It
no,
wears you out.
it wears you out. It's also boring. I like doing them raw as well because I think it's like people like watching or listening to people these days. That's why you've got all these channels on TV. I don't watch TV anymore, but you've got Big Brother and I'm a Celebrity and Sex on the Beach or X on the Beach, which is probably also Sex on the
Blimey.
Beach. You've got all this stuff going on. So people love watching other people, don't they? And I think if it is raw, as it is, warts and all, to me, that's more interesting rather than perfecting it. But the one I was just editing, so I did, as I mentioned to you, I was chatting to Andrew Bridgen, I think it was yesterday, just a half an hour clip. And when you do these YouTube things, it automatically gives you a thumbnail. And normally it gets the person that I'm talking to rather than me, which is
Yeah.
what I want, and which people want as well, because it attracts the audience. Of this time, it didn't get Andrew, it got me, and me. And I thought, okay, how do I get Andrew's face on, as a thumbnail? Took me an hour. In fact, I gave up. My son-in-law came along and he sorted it just like that.
Just
Made
like that.
notes.
Nice finger
Yeah.
clicking.
Thank you. Look, twice. But anyway, let's move on and talk about something else. I know we have got a bit of a theme, because I can smell something here. I can smell something in the room here, and that's kind of what we were going to be discussing. I think we were going to start off talking about smells, weren't we?
We were, yes, the olfactory memory. That's a lovely word, isn't it?
Olfactory.
Olfactory
Does that
memory.
does that mean the sniffing device?
Yeah, the sense of smell, your olfactory sense.
That
Yes,
it.
there you go. All these grand words. But
Yes.
were we not talking about? Isn't this what sparked it off? I'm sure we're just talking about memory in general, but I think smells. This is going to be a smell cast, right? That you're doing right now. Um, Smells seem to evoke memory so instantaneously and vividly. I don't know if it's the same for you, but I've always like not that I can name it, but if I smell a perfume that say my wife had been wearing 15, 20 years ago, I'd almost instantly go back to that moment. It's so powerful. Also, I mean, not that this is particularly romantic or a vivid or distinct memory, but patchouli, that thing that everybody used to put all over their denim jackets and stuff. I just remember getting swamped with patchouli. I didn't wear any of these things, but they're
Mm.
very strong. And yeah, you get certain smells. I'm always remembering as a small child being kissed by my overpowdered aunties or grandma, and that sort of wonderful sort of smells that they had at the time. Come here and give us a big kiss, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So
Takes
it's
you
very
back, doesn't it?
powerful. It is. It does. It's very emotionally smell. I think it is. Yeah.
It is, and I think pheromones, isn't it? That's the word we're looking at. So animals are, they sniff each other's underparts, don't they, and all sorts of stuff, because I
Yeah.
guess that's how they communicate and how they mate and stuff like that. So pheromones are really important, and I think so. I had an ex-boyfriend, and when we caught up after 20, 30 years, he said, you know what attracted us to each other? And I said, well, I saw you and fancied you. He said, no, it's actually the pheromones. I said, really? He said, yes, you would experience the smell of somebody before anything else. I guess like food and stuff, you've got to smell it. If it doesn't smell nice, you walk away. And that was really quite an interesting fact. And I think that is
Yeah.
very true. And I'll also explain, as I said to you the other day when we were talking in the pub about this, that there's a chap I know who's created a business, and a very, very successful business that's been going for some time, on the basis of smell. And it's a lubricant, I think, for relationships. Let's leave it like that. It's a lubricant. And it does very well overseas or what have you. And he told me how he actually created this lubricant was through the smell. So the example he said was they had a room, they put all these chairs in the room, and they sprayed one particular chair with a musk, and they allowed individual women to come in. So it was an experiment. So a bunch of women came in, and singularly on their own, and they were asked to choose a seat randomly. That they didn't know that was a test. They just had to sort of take a seat, and they all sat on this chair that had been sprayed with musk. Every single woman.
Right.
Very interesting. Now then, they brought the men in, and they said the same thing. Or just come in, take a seat randomly. Every man avoided that chair, which was just so. I found that really interesting. He, on that basis, he knew what smell would attract women and would, deter men. And I think the smell of of musk comes from the undercarriage of a deer, I believe, a male deer. I think it comes from their cojones.
Hmm.
That's what I'm told. So it's quite interesting that women like the smell of, the masculine smell happens to be a deer. But yeah, I love the
Yeah.
smell of musk. So yeah, that's just my take on pheromones and smell. But
Yeah. I think
when
they must have a gland there. Just
yes,
I love the idea as well. And this is gonna you might want to call me pedantic, Paul, but you've said the word pheromones, which is
yes.
great. It's like there are these little gnomes, but that's not the word. It's pheromones. Okay.
So they're little furry things that are moaning, aren't they? They're not little gnomes. They're moaning
Yeah.
furry things.
It's
Pheromones.
Pherom, but the idea of little gnomes called pharaoh is quite interesting. But yeah, no, it's pheromone. It's
Egyptian
pheromones.
ones, yeah. Egypt
Yeah.
pharaohs, pharaoh no. So it's pheromones. Hang on, you've got
Yeah.
yes, pheromones, and I call it pheromones.
Pheromones. Yes, that's
Pheromones,
it.
pheromones. He's moaning. The
Hmm.
Egyptian gods are moaning. Yeah, okay. Thank you for that, pedantic Paul. No, we have to get this right. Everything is really important with words. It's really important
Yeah,
to
it is.
because words are spells, aren't they? Spellings, things
Yeah,
like that.
they are a bit.
But when we were
Um,
chatting in the pub, yeah, you started saying, "Oh, smells, perfumes and things like that." Somebody created this, so it's not just to smell nice, is it? There's a dark side to smelling
well, I
nice.
think there is probably
Mm.
yeah. Again, I mean, it sounds like I'm permanently paranoid, Paul, but I don't think so. And the accusation that's thrown out to everybody, not just me, but anybody like this, is that conspiracy stuff. And the answer really to that is yes, because the more areas you look into, that's what you bang into every single time. If you're prepared to keep asking questions and sort of re-upgrading your understanding. I mean, it's a never-ending process. You have to hit a point, I guess, with all of these areas where you go, right, that's enough for now. I've got to make breakfast or whatever, because it's an infinite sort of learning curve. But I suspect, just like you were talking there about deer, in the olden days, not that I'm familiar, not that I've got an insight. In fact, I've got no knowledge at all about the history of smell, although I should imagine there are plenty of good books written on it if you really get into this. But maybe the perfumes or the fragrances that were worn by ladies and probably men as well during the more foppish times in our history, one would assume they were based on natural products, things readily available, that they would be more direct and off the land, like the smell of roses. We like the smell of roses. I'm just picking an obvious one. But we do when they're in bloom, and it reminds you of all sorts of things like sunny days and vivid color and life and all the just instantaneously, I suspect, these things are just triggered. So maybe in the olden days they were doing good stuff. I mean, they talk about musk and all sorts of other sort of oils and things that people would rub on their body to do this. But the modern iterations of it, and I'm not saying that this is true of all of them, but what we were talking about that time was that during the mating game, during the encircling of the opposite sex in social spaces, which used to take place where in pubs and things like that, and all sorts of other places, and still do if there are any pubs left. I know there are less now than there were yesterday, but even so, there's still quite a few left. Fingers crossed and all that. The smell is massively important, but as I understand it, on an unconscious level, it's the raw smell of the person's natural odor. Let's put it tastefully. I don't just mean stinking of sweat. Although the smell of sweat, if it's the right sort, is attractive because it's carrying. I mean, it sounds like a repulsive thing. Ooh, we don't want to talk about that. But the fact is, we do just naturally stink from time to time. And it all depends whether you think that's a repellent stink or an attractive one. And I remember reading stuff, I can't quote you who it was, that there's a lot going on with it. There's about 70 or 80 trace elements, for want of a better phrase, within the smell that your body picks up. And your subconscious brain goes, if you're attracted to someone, it's basically telling you, if you hook up with this person and you were to have children, they're going to turn out pretty good. That's what the smell's all about. It's like a genetic marker. And it's instant. And that is why we've all known it in rooms. You've seen attractive people, but you're not attracted to them. They're physically attractive, but for whatever reason, you just go, nice person and everything, but not my type. I mean, we're all doing that all the time. We're all discriminating, aren't we? Oh, you can't discriminate. Well, you can't not. It's impossible to be alive and not discriminate. That's part of the alive process, it seems to me. So if we were all left naturally, sort of like on an island, wandering around and naturally producing our own natural smells, one would hazard a good guess that in due course, over many generations, you would produce very healthy children because the genetic matchups between the male and the female would be good. Perfumes interfere with that process. They absolutely interfere with it. And they disguise these things, and they also send out wrong signals, which confuses people. I mean, maybe we could blame the perfume industry for people going through loads of girlfriends and boyfriends because they're attracted on a kind of surface level. And we all go through that, when you're going through the great hormonal phase of your life, which is a riot, and that you don't understand it when it's going on. It's just fun and mad. But then you end up possibly creating disastrous relationships. I'm not saying just out of that would be a bit of a stretch, but it's probably a contributory factor, I would have thought. And it made a lot of sense. And then you look at who owns the perfume companies.
Just pause you there a minute, because I just want to come back to that. So interesting what you say, like relationships, that I had a boyfriend many years ago, and he used to wear, I think it was called Kouros, Kouros, I think, I can't remember, but I know the smell of him. Wow, that really did it for me. And then any bloke really that would wear that perfume, or that,
Yeah,
whatever you call it, it's a scent. What do you mean? Aftershave, isn't it? Slap it all over.
that's it.
Yeah, they'd get a reaction from me, and I didn't even mind what they looked like. It would just be a reaction like, "Wow, I like your smell. Let's leave it there." But it's very interesting because also, if I put a perfume on, and I do love perfume, I love wearing perfume, not all the time. And a friend of mine came round the other day, and she was horrified because, oh my God, you put all those perfumes, they're toxic and all this kind of stuff. But if I smell the perfume like from the bottle, lovely, and I'll put it on me, and then I don't smell it on me. I cannot smell it on me, and I've forgotten. I might go back, half an hour later and put some more on.
Yeah.
So I probably really stink. Other people will smell that, but I have no idea that I've got it on. So it is very interesting because it does disguise our own natural odor, which isn't a very nice word, but smell.
It's interesting, our relationship with smell, the way it's
Yeah,
been demonized I mean, I suppose you associate it with being a dirty person. And the fact is, throughout life, there will be moments where you will be. So you're just going to
yeah,
have to reside, male or female. Males are worse at that, of course, because they've got to go and throw a monkey wrench at something and stuff, and they just can't be bothered after a while. And it's just a trait of the piggish element of men. It's true, right? It
yes,
just
yes,
happens. It's also in certain circles viewed as being masculine, and it is because those are parts of it's kind of the energy wave is we got stuff to do. I can't be bothered, making sure that I smell nice for you. I've got to get under this truck, or I'm about to shovel some horse manure. It doesn't matter. You've got to a farmyard, right? You're going to have to, your nose is going to get bombarded with
Yeah,
extremely strong things, isn't it? And you'll just get used to it. But uh, in the I was saying, in the courting process, it is fascinating. I mean, I haven't thought about it a great deal since we spoke about it because it's not something that I'm naturally attracted to as a topic, but it seems that it's fundamental in a way. You think, well, there's another ingredient or another aspect of our life that could work well, and is it realistic to assume that perfumes are going to interfere with that process? I think it is. I think it's
yeah,
highly realistic to think that. And I think it's highly likely that it does do that. And it'll send people off in dizzying sorts of ways. And when you were just talking then about being attracted to people with certain perfumes, I mean, it's not that I'm a man with a lot of girlfriends in my past. I really haven't. But there were some girls would wear things, and I just really didn't want to be with them that evening, and didn't have the balls at the time to tell them, I really don't like what you're wearing, because women get offended by that. Oh, I really love this
yeah,
perfume. I'm going, I really don't like it.
yeah. It's a
It's sort
turn
of
off.
something that
Yeah,
reminded me of my auntie or something strange. There's
sure.
something a little bit too soft about it, and
Yeah.
everybody's different. So it's fascinating in a way. It may be that your instinct around smell is the most important thing to follow. It could well be that.
Yeah, well,
Mm.
I think it is going back to what this ex-boyfriend of mine said. He was kind of the love of my life at the time, broke my heart, bless him. Ooh. But we've since made up and we're friends. And that's when he mentioned that, I thought, oh, well, actually, that does make a lot of sense because I've, subsequently met people who just talked about this amazing subject, really, and
Hmm.
they said they don't want to hang out with that particular person because they don't like their smell. And I would smell them. I think, it's not as if they've got body odor. It's not they haven't got bow. I call it bow, body odor, bo. It's just their natural smell, and it doesn't excite, or that person doesn't want to be close to them. Even not even talking sexually, but they don't actually want to be close to them because their smell is a turn off. And when we talk about odor and body odor, when you think, oh God, somebody really smells, quite often it's because it's stale, isn't it? When you're alluding
Yeah.
to the fact, man's out there, if you see them hot and sweaty, you think, well, us women will think, wow, that's always a bit of all right. But if he hasn't washed it all off that day and it starts to get stale, it doesn't smell very nice. But I'm sure fresh odor of the body, there's a name there,
Hmm.
it's a perfume, odor of the body, could be quite enticing. But
Yeah.
yes,
I was,
go
yeah.
on.
Well, I was just, how people have color charts done for their,
Yes,
what is it? I mean,
their
it's the
skin type and
seasons.
that. Yeah,
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 spring, autumn. I think I'm a winter. I had my colors done. So there's certain colors that suit you. And of course, as a bloke, when did I have this done? Early 80s, right? It's a bit sort of a kind of a feminized process. But I worked in this company, and a color consultants came in about 1985. It's a long time ago. And of course, all the blokes are going, yeah, 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 because you're just being blokey about it. But I turn out in my window, I start wearing navy blue t-shirts and things, and it just worked. I went, oh, I actually feel better as well. And it's not sort of like you're being prissy. I
no,
mean, with the male thing, if you get overly elaborate with the way that you dress, it's not good. And if you're under elaborate, it's also not good. There's a little medium ground where you've got to be just right. And
yeah,
you think blokes don't give too much thought to their appearance, but they do. It's just that it's got to be thought in my view, in a narrow range. For the masculine energy, it needs to be sort of conservative with a few little sharp touches, and that's me. That's personally that's what I respond to. So any sort of male that turns up that's overly elaborately dressed, I'm generally not so interested. And I
yeah,
don't mean
sure.
cravats and things; those things are completely acceptable to me. I mean, this is just a personal taste thing, isn't it? But if they've gone to too much trouble over their
Yeah,
appearance, I just go, you ain't got time for that. The fact that you've put so much
exactly.
time, right, you're
Yeah,
not focusing on changing the spare wheel on the, I mean, literally,
that
I
that's
just think
but
like that
that's
instantly.
right. Yes,
It's
yeah,
an instant judgment that I
exactly.
have with people,
Yeah,
and I just can't be bothered to put any more time in. They might be
yeah,
wonderful people, but it's not going to be wonderful for me. And so the color chart thing is quite interesting. Well, maybe somebody has or needs to provide a smell rating for you. Maybe I think you probably could do it. There must be. I mean, if they do DNA traces, which they do, not that I've sent mine off, I'm highly suspicious, as usual, of the organizations that want to gather, tell me about
Mm,
my DNA, oh, and not keep a record of it. Because I
mm,
believe that those DNA things, of course, track through to designer diseases. I'm quite serious,
yes.
actually, about it. I
Yes.
think
No,
that's,
I would agree.
yeah, it's part of what's
Yeah.
going on. So I don't want to interact with sort of organizations out there that tell me they're going to do me a lot of good. But
Mm.
smell would be interesting. Yeah, if you could get your smell profile, you go, oh, I'm a stinky pig too, or whatever it is. Oh, I'm a stinky pig too as well. We ought to go
Well,
out for a date. It's going to
I think
work.
no. I think alpha male one and alpha male two would probably be more attractive to most women than a
Yes, I
stinky
think
pig.
so.
But that could be at the top, beginning with A and down. Take it down to the Z. I don't know. But I think that's a very very valid point what you said, and whether there's going to be a chart for people to go and send off their smell. Let's go back to the perfume, because is that not the same thing? And how did perfumes come about? Do you have any idea? Is it got back to Cleopatra in the bath full of milk or something? I mean, where did they come about?
Maybe I don't know. I mean,
No.
that's really for someone to look up. It's not the sort of area I would probably plow into. I mean, I guess in modern terms, everybody would think of Coco Chanel
Yes.
as being and I'm not saying that they were up to bad stuff. Maybe all that stuff is great. Maybe the early days of perfume, being what is it, a parfumerie or whatever it is. It's probably, the French would have had a big role to play in it because as a culture, the French have got their sensitivities about all these things, sort of elaborate dressmaking and fine wine and food. They go in for, they're like, they're great indulgers, as it were, in the
Yes.
sensual side of life. That's what they're known for. Okay, and I know it's a cliche, but I think it holds true. That's whereas the English are known for what, drinking beer and fighting and other things possibly. I don't want to go into all the cliches. So, but I would imagine Coco Chanel started off fine. I just think that the range of it's very, like even the advertising for perfumes and stuff like that, they come on at Christmas, don't they? The ones for the blokes, the adverts for the blokes are just toe-curlingly awful to me. They always were. They're just ridiculous. It's like, look, if I'm going to wear something, I don't want I don't want to know that I bought it because I received advertising about it. It's kind of counterintuitive to me. But I remember one when I was a teenager in the 70s. Good grief! There was one cologne that came out, and we all bought it because it had the most ridiculous name. It was called Pagan Man.
Oh,
So
I'll
it
have a
was
bit of
probably
that.
appalling. I don't have any bottles of it left at all. Absolutely none. Pagan Man, but we all were going around saying, "I've got Pagan Man." We're all grunting when we went to the pub and stuff. It was just a sort of little in joke at the time. When I first met my wife, she'd spent a lot of time in Spain, and she brought things, said, "Here, try this on," and I just instantaneously or instantly responded to it. Was good. It seemed to be understated, the Spanish stuff. It was just refreshing and good and all that. I sound like a right old gay boy, don't I? Thinking about these things. But at the time, it was great. It was really
Yeah.
good. And I thought, oh, that's good. That's manly without
Yeah.
being sort of pagan mannish, like overly manly and all these things. But um,
It's
yeah, and of course
marketing, isn't it?
yeah, it
The
is.
power of marketing, like you say, I'm going to put a pagan man on me, and wherever you put it, you guys, and then you think you become this pagan man. And
Yeah,
do you
and you
remember there was
do.
this boxer who splashed it all over? Splash it all over. Do you remember?
Henry Cooper.
Was it
Is that
Henry?
Henry Cooper?
Yeah, I think it was. You said just splash it all over. I can't remember the name of the scent.
Brute,
Oh,
wasn't it?
Brute.
Wasn't it Brute?
Brute. It was Brute. It was Brute. That's right. And I guess they get him because he's a big, boxer, this
Yeah.
big fighter. So yeah, the marketing, and therefore the men are putting on this Brute. Great
Hmm.
name. It worked. It worked because they sold a lot of it. I don't know what the in thing is now because I don't know what the modern day perfume is. I'm a Chanel girl to be honest, or
Are
a bit
you?
of Joy. Yeah, yeah, I love Chanel. I love Joy. I remember an ex-boyfriend bought me a bottle of Joy once. I've never had it before, never seen it before, but it's very, very expensive, and so I like that. And now there's something
Hmm.
called Bronze Goddess, which I love because I love, the goddesses in the world, and I love getting a tan because a tan, sunshine, is very, very good for you. Although a lot of people think it's not. You're going to go out in the sunshine, you're going to get, you're going to get ill, which is not the case. I think vitamin D is really important, but a lot of the younger generation, so they clean themselves up so much that they're not getting the light, which is so important. But anyway, I digressed a little bit. Let's talk then more about what's happened with the perfumes. When we were in the pub, that's what really interested me. You were saying, well, there's people behind the perfumes, and they are there
Hmm.
to sort of dismantle the family unit. Is that correct?
Well,
Feeling.
yeah, that's me just projecting, but I think
Mm,
it's just a matter of logical deduction. Anybody could sort of look at this and go, why would you? I mean, why would they want to go into the perfume business? Probably because it's ludicrously profitable,
yeah,
I
money.
suspect. Right. So marketing is everything because it's all about perception. It's a bottle of smelly water or some stuff. It lasts a long time, and they charge quite a bit for it, and it comes in beautiful boxes. Right. Don't come in an oil can. So
No,
there's a whole experience. There's a whole thing. It's obviously entwined with the courting process. It's all about, the lady preparing herself in her boudoir for the arrival of her beau and all this kind of stuff. And we buy into this. And I'm not again it. I think it's part of our projection of the romantic process. And it's a good thing. I think it's wonderful. It doesn't last your entire life, this period, and there is a period where you are on the market, both as a male and as a female, and you're out there scouring and uh,
you're
making all
courting,
your
aren't you?
decisions. Yeah,
Mm,
you are.
yes.
You're trying to find that sort of little clutch of people that you fit in with well, and hopefully within that clutch you might find somebody of the opposite sex, and you hit it off. I mean, I don't know how it works for everybody. That's how it's always worked for me. I sound as though I do it all the time, but that's my track record, was just being
Mm,
in a group of people and suddenly you go, oh, I quite like talking to this person a bit more than the other people. And one thing leads to another and so on and so forth. But um, if this is sort of now going into the more paranoid side of it, but if we take into account that the destruction of the family unit is obviously a key aspect of what we're all enduring right now. And I would say that that process, well, it's written down in the Communist Manifesto from 1930 odd or whatever, or the International Communist Manifesto, the Comintern. I hate using all these phrases because they're so dry and dead, but they talk about the destruction of the family unit. And why? Well, obviously, a population is much more easy to regulate, manage, control, seduce, distract if they don't have family strength. So every single aspect, most of the things that we've talked about, even in the previous shows, you could say that in common, the result of all these negative things is to break down, weaken, and disperse the idea of families. It's non-stop in so many different areas. I mean, they're just talking about sticking more money into nurseries or something, and all this, that, and the other, and that's going to make families work better. No, it isn't. It's a nonsense. Families just need to be left at home with a
yeah.
toaster, making tea, with mum doing things and dad coming in. It's just magic. You can't, nothing outside of that can create that. And of course, they're all against it. So would would perfume form a part of the war upon the family? It sounds a bit of a long stretch, but I don't see why not. I mean, if you're going to confuse people about who they should get matched up with, and make money out of it, hey, there you go. And much of it is about that, it seems to me. I mean, we are seduced by marketing,
Yes.
even if we don't have enough money to go out and purchase the products. We're kind of bedeviled by them. Oh, I wish I had money. I need a Ferrari was basically my mantra when I was 26, and I didn't have 80 grand. So I never
Yeah.
got one.
To spare.
Yeah.
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 Or yeah. No, I think that's such a valid point because it's the power of the senses, isn't it? When as I was saying at the beginning, when you look at a food or something, you'll see it and you'll taste it, you'll touch it, and you'll smell it, and that is really such an important aspect of who we are.
Yeah.
I think with smell, because it's not tangible, it's just something we take for granted, and how disruptive it can be without us consciously thinking about it. So
Hmm.
I think it's an incredible valid point. That's why I got really excited when you said it's kind of, but maybe it wasn't deliberately set up to divide families, but I can certainly see how it can divide people because you're not seeing the true essence, and I use that word consciously, of that person. Because
Yes.
it's being hidden, it's being covered up. It's making me think now maybe I should give up my perfumes. For the other aspect, my friends said, "Oh, you're wearing them not because of the smell, because of poisons that you're putting on your body as well, all the chemicals that you're putting on your body. And we're, what in the world in which we're living at the moment, we're really trying to fight to be healthy, but it's coming from water, from the skies, from food, from the earth. And I guess if you're then spraying it on yourself as well with these chemicals, it's not natural, is it?
No, no, it's interlinked with many things. It's an aspect, and I mean, it is a fascinating sense when you start to think about it, because you realize that you never think about it, like you just said.
Yes.
You don't go
Yes.
around consciously. You just smell is an instantaneous sort of response that you give. It's
Yes.
unconscious, isn't it? It's literally you don't have conscious
It's just
thoughts. You don't sit
there.
down and go, I must write about the smells I smelt today. You don't. No one. You don't think like that. I mean, why
No.
would you? But and it suddenly strikes you. You go, oh, I just take this for granted, and yet you can't see it, you can't touch it, but something's going
No.
on in your nose. I mean, I've actually
Yeah.
got a book all about the history of the nose on my bookshelf. I was going to go and grab it before this. I've forgotten what it's called. I'll bring it along when we next meet.
Yeah.
It's a whole the whole fascination with what's going on inside your nose. I mean, and look at what people use their noses for. They stick coke up it, don't they? Some people.
Yeah.
It's a massively sensitive instrument. And if you look at it in our language, it's thing like follow your nose, and your instincts come in, and something doesn't smell right. You look at our
Yes.
language, this doesn't smell right.
Yes. Yes.
And it's tapped into something almost instantaneous, I think, into how you comprehend and apprehend things.
Yeah.
It's just a feeling, and it's very strong, and it doesn't need to be you just move away from it. I don't like this, I'm going straight away.
Well, it's also, like you say, the people that have a very acute smell, they're paid fortune to be wine sniffers or testers, aren't they? So
Yes.
the bouquet of a wine, and likewise, when we drink wine, I don't drink alcohol anymore, but you're supposed to sort of smell it. Isn't that the first thing you do? You pour it glug 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 with a ritual, and then you smell it and swish it around, and then you know taste it
Yeah.
finally. So it's another important thing, which I guess we just take for granted. Smell it.
Yeah, it's probably, I mean, it's directly linked, therefore, to the health of the quality of the food you're about to take in.
Yes,
And of course, much
yes,
food is now disguised with other things, although disguise is probably wrong. We love herbs, don't we? We love the smell of herbs.
yeah,
And the whole smell process builds up your appetite prior to eating. Generally, I mean, that's what it does. And that's why home environments are good, because you're right next to the kitchen when mum or dad,
yes,
whoever it is cooking. You've got 20 minutes of pre-selling you on the idea that you're about to sit down for food, because it's wafting through the house.
yeah,
I remember years ago, we went over to France to buy some champagne, a lot of it. And we were in this farmhouse on a Sunday morning, last sort of stop at this vigneron. And the guy that we were due to meet was out. His wife, lovely woman. I didn't speak a word of French, but the guy that I was with spoke it fluently. And she said, oh, he's out driving his car. He was driving a 1902 Citroen, made in 1902. And it was bright yellow like a lemon. And he was very proud of it. And the steering wheel was horizontal. It was just, it was just amazing, really. And then he started showing us and taking us through all the wines. But the bit that really stuck out was that she was cooking lunch. I can smell it now. It was roast lamb and all these herbs. And it's just, nice, better
you
than
start
perfume.
dribbling.
Better than perfume, seriously.
Better than
Very
perfume.
attracted, very
Yeah.
attracted to that woman at that time.
Were
Yeah.
you? Were you? That's
Yeah.
interesting.
I don't
Your
mean in
wife
that
wasn't
way. I
there.
just meant, just
No,
generally,
I
no.
know, but the power of smell. It's the power of
Yeah.
smell. It's the same thing when you sell a house, isn't it? They say bake a loaf of bread because that
Hmm.
smell of homeliness and family environment and happiness and joy just comes from smelling a freshly baked loaf of bread, which is very true. So, the more I'm talking to you or listening to what you say about this, it fascinates me because perfumes hide what our true essence. And I'm going to take it back to the reason why you think, or one of the reasons why you think this is, it's because certain people are benefiting, a certain group of people are benefiting on financially on this. Do you think?
Well, yeah, they must be, I guess. I mean, it seems like, I mean, I'm just a tight-fisted bloke when it comes to things like this. I go, why do you need to fork out? I don't know what it costs for perfume. Is it over 100 quid a bottle, 50 quid a bottle, or
Can
whatever? What do
be.
they cost?
Yeah, yeah, it can be. And more. Yeah.
You know, um, I mean, and no doubt there's probably organic odor makers now. There must be people that make things that have got literally nothing nasty inside them. But as I was saying, I'm intrigued by the idea that it might or probably would disguise your natural subcarrier wave. These 70 or so sensors that you've got are indicative of so many different aspects of the other person, just like you're putting out. And when you look at it in a positive light, that's wonderful, isn't it? It's really wonderful.
Yeah,
It's wonderful that you don't have to get all intellectual about it. You go, oh, I don't think so. But you don't even think
yeah.
that. You just naturally move away. It's not even offensive to anybody else. It's as if it's an unwritten sort of law that's taking place where you will just gravitate to people where you feel maybe it's part of feeling comfortable around people as well. It's not that I notice that people stink badly or anything like that. It's just that I think you're naturally drawn into certain spaces, and smell must be a contributory factor. I'm not saying it's the outstanding one. I mean, we're more driven by the visuals. Obviously, everything is about
We,
visuals
but
these
that's
days.
because we obviously see it, and you've got all the marketing, you've got the TV, the screens, the computer,
Yep.
and all that. But now again, I'm just thinking, think about a baby. You know, the baby, the smell of the mother's milk, or the smell of the little blanket or muslin they'd, they'd hold and they'd keep near them. And then also when you break up in a relationship or when your partner's gone off for one, you might want to wear his shirt because of the essence that he carries in his shirt. And also when my mother, sorry, when my father died, they're both gone now. When my father died, my mother, kept his pajamas under the
Yeah.
pillow for the smell of him and kept his dressing gown until the day she died. I think I've got them now in a box somewhere, just in respect to her. So there's a
Yes.
massive, there's a massive effect on who we are. And yes, it's just something that isn't to, we don't, we're discussing it now, which is very, I can't believe we're spending nearly an hour talking about it. But those people that have made an absolute mint on perfumes, including this chap that I was talking about at the beginning with the chair and the musk.
Yeah.
He saw this as a way to get rich, and the perfume companies obviously do, and whoever runs the perfume companies. And is it just a money making thing? It'd be really interesting if people are watching this to have your comments. Is it about just making money, or is there also a divisive, a nefarious cheap reason that people done to split us up?
Yeah.
Hmm.
I mean, I'm sort of I'm out of touch with what young people I like to say, but with what when so as a teenager in the 70s and in my 20s in the 80s and stuff, working alongside a lot of women and socializing, obviously at that time, perfume was a stock thing. Everybody, all the ladies wore it, and they would discuss, oh, can I try a bit of this and all that kind of stuff. It's just part of that. It's great. It's fine. Do young people sort of buy perfume to the degree that they used to? Is it a big
Yes.
deal? Yeah.
Yes, I mean, I don't know how old your children are. I mean, mine are all in their 20s now. But whenever
Yeah.
we'd go on a
Mine too.
holiday, so my daughter would always I love the perfumes that I bought. I'd always treat her. She'd go around the horrible duty free thing, which I can't stand these duty free places when you go through an airport. Because
Hmm.
you're compelled, every airport you go to around the world now, you're compelled to go through these bloody duty free companies and they're spraying you and getting you and everything. But, you can just see the young people are there. My daughter likes it. She's followed my example. And also, one of my sons isn't, he's more out in nature, climbing trees and stuff. He's late 20s. Whereas the other one would also look to choose a certain perfumes. But I think as teenagers, they went through, there's a cheap one that you get on the supermarkets. You get it in a box and it's a spray and a soap and something else. And I can't remember what it is. It's like the young man's introduction to smell. I cannot remember what it is, but I think it's very prevalent in the young society. It depends on the
Right.
money. But also they do other things now, don't they? They get tattooed. That seems to be the next thing. So they're ruining their. I've got to be careful because people love to the young people see and the older people love tattoos. I do not understand why they don't want to
No.
decimate this beautiful skin that God gave us and they colour it in all this
I
stuff.
think it's one of the most depressing developments
Yeah,
and producers of misery for me personally when I see
yeah.
people. That particularly, you see physically fit, attractive young men and women with sort of like some spider web all over their shoulder or something. And I'm going, what on earth possessed you to do that? Because I do think it's kind of a possession, really, literally. Why would you take something that's perfect?
Yeah.
and ruin it. For what? To make you more attractive. It doesn't do that. It really doesn't do that. It's
It doesn't do it for you and I, Paul, but sorry for interrupting you here. I
mhm,
just remember a comment that somebody made about people that did have tattoos, and it was like a young person made this comment about they weren't judging, but they were just commenting, and they were saying that man is old fashioned because he's not got appendages, he hasn't got things hanging from his nose, his ears, or whatever, and he hasn't got any tats. Whereas the other one's very modern, and he's all tattooed, and he looks really gorgeous. So it's a trend, and again, it's a pressure. I think that it's like a fad they're going through. The more covers you can have, and sleeves, and whatever else they're called, the more trendy you are. So I think there's that element as well, and whoever's
well, I think
behind
that's
it.
definitely. I think the 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 problem with it is that it's permanent, isn't it? As
Yes,
I understand it.
it is, unless you get a henna one, that comes
Mm,
off, in a few days. It's permanent, and then even if you try and get it removed, you've got the scar. There's a shop in Brighton, won't remember the name, but there's a guy that works there. I think they did a TV documentary about him. His whole face, in fact, I imagine the whole body, but his whole face is covered, and even his eyes, they're black. He's really scary, and he's got the big
hmm.
widener things stretchers in his ears and whatever. And he's a nice enough guy, because I remember going in there once, and I just thought, oh goodness me, I'd love to do a chat with him. Actually, go in there and see why he's done it. Is it to hide? Is it they're not happy in themselves, so they want to become somebody else? Who knows?
I I don't know. There's probably. I mean, this thing didn't. There are always people that got tattoos, but not like has been happening over the last, what, 15,
No.
20 years or so. So if it's trendy, it's generally useless in retrospect. If you're young and you don't realize this, you're in for a lot of trouble. Trendy stuff is generally trash. It nearly always is. In retrospect, it falls apart like a paper bag. It's of no value whatsoever. I wouldn't be able to talk to that guy, right? I think that I think is extremely damaging. It's projecting something into a space, which I find offensive. I really do. I find it absolutely offensive that someone thinks that they can just project ugliness into my space and that I'm going to be, because that's what it is. Why? So, and it links into this uglification culture that's taking place. There's the uglification of women see, or females. So you could, oh, you're old fashioned. Yes, that's right. I'm old fashioned because it's better. Not all things in the past were better, but that was. I mean, it's my instinct, and all my sort of being vibrates with it. I don't get attracted at all on any level to all these crazy colored haired people and all this. I don't know what they're doing. And I've often thought, I mean, it might be a bit glib, but I just thought there can't be much going on with your life if you can spend a lot of time doing that. Really, I think it's a sign of weakness. I really do, and I don't want to be around weak people. And you go, you fascist, yeah. And what's your point? I'm not going to be around people like that. I refuse to do it because there's so many other good people to be around. So I used to say cockily, I say, well, I'm glad these people are wearing tattoos because they've informed me immediately that I'm not going to spend any time with them, and I won't. That's it. Oh, you're just judging people. Yes, that's exactly what I'm doing. It's what everybody's doing all the time. You know, this word, oh, you mustn't discriminate. You can't not discriminate. The minute you stop discriminate is when you're dead. Whilst you're breathing, you're discriminating all the time. You're discriminating on smell, on
Hmm.
visuals, on language patterns, on diction, on body posture, on attitude, on buoyancy, misery, every single thing that's going on with the other people. You are running a sort of discrimination machine permanently on everybody. Because if you didn't, you're going to end up with a very miserable life. Oh, I'll accommodate everybody. Okay, well, let's see how that works. And it's simply not true. It's hypocrisy. And of course, people that want to lecture on that are a little bit exhausting. I don't mind that people discriminate against me. Cool, fantastic. You should. That's exactly because I'm doing exactly the same. And it's whether you want a word they use against. I just think you discriminate, you choose, don't you? Your life is a permanent process. Every day you get up, you start to make certain choices. And if you bump into anything that's offensive, and it may be that ultimately we find out that perfume really is offensive because it's buggering up the mating process. But of course, it's so attractive. And it is. I accept all that. It's, it's designed to supposedly enhance the attraction process. But does it? I've never been around people long enough not wearing perfume, as it were, in nightclubs. It was just a waft of all these smells
Mm.
everywhere for you to really tell. And I know when, not that I'm the sort of guy that ever enjoyed it in nightclubs. I love music, but I never liked nightclubs, ever. Why? Because when we were young, sorry, just choking on something here.
Yes. Are you okay there? Yeah.
When
Somebody
we were
hasn't come in
young,
and put their hands around your neck or anything, have they, whilst
yeah, no, no, not
you're...
yet. That's in a couple of hours. But you'd go into a place. The music, of course, would be inordinately loud. It was as if clubs wanted to say, "Look, we play it louder than everybody else." And I go, "Why? Why? I can't enjoy it." But if you were to meet someone from the opposite sex, I couldn't hear them talk. So I said, "What's the point? If I can't hear the way that they sound and how they conduct a conversation, what am I supposed to go on?" So it reduces it down to purely the visual and almost like a jungle level of visualness. It's not enough. Not for me, and not for most people, I would suggest. It's simply not enough information or input to sort of base a decision on whether you actually want to invite her out for a coffee the next day or anything. I've no idea of knowing about that. So we've probably all had disastrous dates or things where you thought it was going to be okay, and you just politely said goodbye at the end. Or even at the beginning of the evening. It didn't have to be one of those nights, right? And you were both happier for it because it just wasn't going to, you just didn't, no one gets cross with anybody. You just go,
No.
well, this is the way it works out. And so, yeah, I used to just, I think I went into nightclubs maybe 4 times in my life when I was living in Leeds. And I left on every single occasion after 15 minutes and walked home, which was a 4-mile walk. There's just where you're going. I said, I want to go to the pub where I can hear people. Right.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't want to. I love music, but I don't like this. You put into it's like opera. I don't like opera because I love music and I like stories, but when you put them together, generally difficult for me. But that's just me. I'm a peasant,
Yeah.
right? I can't take it all in. It never it doesn't feel natural to me. Although there are some great operatic passages which are fantastic, but the whole opera itself, the idea of people singing their way through a story, I hate musicals for the same reason. Can't stand them, and I mean, this is all to do with our cultural sensitivities and what we think is important. But yeah, I suppose now they're just full of people covered in tattoos. And so I won't go there either. I remember, how long ago is it? We've been down about 25 years. After I've been here about 6 or 7 years, I was working on the other side of town, over on the east side. And there was a guy, that really nice guy, actually, very well educated, public school educated, but was really into tattoos. I didn't know until he said, "Hey, look." And he came up to me because he had to show them to me, which I found pathetic. It's like me saying, "Hey, do you want to see? I've got this mole on my bum." What? Why would I be interested? Right? Why would I care? And so he rolled his sleeve up and he said, "Well, I've just got this one done." I said, "Why have you got any of them done?" That's what I said. I said, they're crap. All of them. He said, "They're not." I said, "They're all complete crap. Why would you destroy, why would you mangle it up?" So I understand why Navy guys and guys in the military units got them. I understand that. I think if I was a guy at sea, a pirate, I can understand why they would do that. That's your life. You're reliant on all those other men. It was a sign of bonding, I suppose. Maybe they didn't bond strong enough, chopping other people's heads off or something together. But I can understand why it came about. Men under pressure where they might die and stuff, they go, right, to hell with it. This is it. It doesn't make any difference now. I'm part of this squadron or this platoon. This is what we do. And it's to, improve esprit de
Mm.
corps, to
Mm.
improve your chances of surviving. You're going to fight tooth, and maybe it's part of that enhancement and bonding process that males go through. They just do in team sports and everything. But in public life, and of course, I have to say this, if you look at the rise of all the tattoo parlors, you'll find the same tribe of people behind it. It's
Yeah.
them. Absolutely. It started in America, I don't know when, 15, 20 years ago. So all these tattoo parlors, if you put me in charge, not only would I ban them, but for the next 5 years, I'd have them all reverse engineered so that they remove tattoos. I would even pass a law to say you're not allowed to sport one in public. I'd be such an absolute,
Gosh.
that's why I'll never get elected. So no one needs worry. Don't worry about it.
No.
But I just wouldn't even have them. The hardest men I ever met don't have tattoos.
Well,
It's complete. It's not
it's
like that.
very, no, no. It's really interesting that we've moved on to that, because when you're talking about, squadrons of platoons and soldiers and army men.
Yep.
You look at the Maoris, wouldn't you? You look at the people over there in New Zealand, the indigenous
Hmm.
people, and they would have tattoos over their face stuff. But I guess that's for fear, isn't it? To create fear in something. But also, as you say, now there's so many tattoo parlors and nail bars and Turkish barber shops, but we said that for another day. But you think about what they're doing when you have
Yeah.
a tattoo. Not only is it, I'm sure it's very painful, but the poisons, again, the poisons that you're putting into your body is
Yep.
not a good thing, is it? We were talking about spraying perfume is one thing, but when you're actually putting this ink thing that our body isn't supposed to having. So that must be causing some distress to the body. It's just another aspect of it. And like you say,
Yeah.
who's behind all these tattoo salons, parlors, whatever they're called,
There's also
studios.
a scriptural ordinance, if that's the right word, to not mark your body. You don't mark it.
Yes, I
Now,
remember
why?
saying that. Yeah,
Yeah, and I think there's probably some good stuff out there that I've yet to read about it, but
yeah,
it draws negative energies towards you. I'm convinced that it does. Like if you hear the tone in my voice talking about it, you can tell I'm slightly irritated by it, right?
yeah,
I don't
yeah, yeah.
like it. Well, it
Passionate.
draws
Yeah,
that I anybody around me that's like that. That's what's emotionally going on with me. So they'll be surrounded by a lot of people who don't like it, and maybe they like the idea that they're creating a reaction in other people, which it does, right? It does because in the same way that smell is instantaneous, sight is also instantaneous. You can't not see a thing.
no,
If you right,
no
it's there, and this is why the attempts the
division.
yearning for beauty. That's what the gist of this. Maybe a common thread here is we're after. I'm after natural beauty in the world because it's the best because it's natural, and so
Yes,
if you look at all of these sorts of areas where people are fiddling around with things and they say, oh, it's trendy and progress, like modern art is trendy and progressive. Yeah, that means it's crap. It's not, you go, oh, you're an ignorant fool. Yeah, fine. Point made, but it's still crap. And we were talking about even the other day, I bumped into all sorts of people that want to exhibit paintings. They can't because they can actually paint. Even what was
yeah.
I talking to someone the other day about? Like Caravaggio, all those guys that could really paint back in Italy, and then they learned over here. The apprentice wasn't allowed near a canvas for at least 12 years. You weren't allowed to use up the precious oil paints unless you'd trained for 12 years to create beauty. And he said, well, that's a bit sort of constraining, isn't it? Yeah, it is. It is. It's called discipline. Whereas you look at splurges and what's his name, Mark Rothko, and all this other stuff that people eulogize about. If you read the piffle that they write about this stuff, and of course they append the word art to it, and no doubt they append the word art to, oh, I'm a body artist. Really?
Yeah,
Okay,
body
see
art.
ya. I'm off.
Yeah,
I'd rather just go play dominoes or have a cup of coffee. It's just to me there's a sadness in it as well, and although i'm
yes,
i'm scathing about it, there's also a sense of loss, and I have a sense of, it sounds pathetic, but a slight sense of grief on behalf of these people for what they've done. I think it's ridiculous. There's a guy I know who is an assassin, literally. He doesn't have tattoos, and he said, what I remember talking to him about these things. He said, no, he said, it's mad. He said, why would you take something perfect and ruin it? Why would you do that? And it may be that there are other I think there's a combination of factors, really. But if you remove
we
tattoo
tend
parlors, no one could get tattooed, right? I mean, it sounds
no.
like a really sort of boneheaded response, and it is in some
Mm.
way. But if there was nowhere to get tattooed, I mean, you'd still get backstreet idiots. I remember as a kid, there were people that would go and get ink and a pin and literally put something, and drive
Oh
it in
yeah,
because they showed
yeah,
that they were
yeah.
hard, and they could do this. So they put a spider or a spot. Although I remember my mate saying once, because none of us had tattoos, the guys that I ran with when I was a teenager, but he was saying that he'd been at some sports event, they were getting shouted rugby match or something, and there was a guy that had a tattoo. He said it's the best tattoo he'd ever seen, and it was on his one of his bottom cheeks. Right, I'm
Mm,
saying it in the English way, and it was
mm.
a lipstick imprint. It was a tattoo of some lady's lips that had been
Oh,
tattooed on one of his cheeks. I thought, well, at least that's witty. And
that's
also,
quite
I don't
funny,
have
isn't
to
it?
see it. I don't have to see
Yeah,
it.
it's private.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, I know.
So,
There was a woman I sat next, a woman, a girl, a teenager, when I used to go to school, and she sat there in one very boring lesson
Yeah.
with a pin and engraved
Oh
the
God.
name of this guy. She wasn't even going out with him, but she had a real crush on him, and she engraved it, Clem, with a needle, and then drew it. Oh, makes
Is
me
it
think.
still there? Is it
I
still
haven't
there
seen
to
her for
this day?
100 years. I doubt she's still there, to be honest, to do something like that. I mean, it was there for a long time, but that, well, she must have been 13 or 14, since it's like 1,003 years ago. But Paul, I
Mm.
think we should wind it up now. I think we've been
Oh,
quite
sure.
provocative. We've done the hour. It's been fascinating. Yeah, very provocative, very interesting things. And I totally agree with you. You know, it's messing with nature, isn't it? And nature's perfect. So why just want to do this? And it's kind of divisive as well, what you're saying, whether it's a
Yeah, it
smell, or
is.
whether it's saying something tattoos can be, oh God, they're really scary, or whatever, for whatever reason. So it's not bringing us together. But
No,
and
it's
I
an
don't,
emotional
yeah,
issue. You can hear it.
yeah,
I get emotional about it, and I'm slightly out of
yeah, I can
control with it.
hear.
And
Yeah,
it's just, yeah, it's because it invades other people's spaces, and smell is part of it, isn't it? I mean, it's
yeah,
an
yeah,
uncontrollable thing. I just had an incident this morning where there was a car outside, manned by some non-English person. Let me put it that way, right? Making a phone call. This is at 5 to 8 this morning, and he had the windows down, and he was doing it full volume on speakerphone in his car. So I had to go out and have a word, and I was out of control when I heard it. When it woke me up, I was really angry. I thought I was like a big sort of nutcase, and I was prepared to go mad with the guy because it was so rude, because it's
yes.
invasive.
Socially,
And
socially unacceptable.
yeah, and maybe I'm just a NIMBYist, not in my
No.
backyard. I go, yeah, tick that box now. And you're just a stuck-up old middle-aged fart. Yeah, fine. But still, you're making a din. I'm not making a din in your space. And he said, I'm making a phone call. I said, well, there's a thing called a headset and earphones, you see, and I want you to make your phone call. It's just that I don't want to be part of it. Is that okay? So I'd really appreciate if you could turn it down. So he did. Then he
He
drove
did.
off.
That's
Yeah,
good. He
so
didn't bash you over the head with a hammer. Then that's good. But
no.
yeah, good for you for speaking up, because it is what's going on these days. So society with revving motorbikes, and like I say, even on the phone, people on mobile bloody phones, when you're on a train or in a restaurant or sitting somewhere
Yep.
quietly. Oh, can't stand it. It's invasive. It's invasive.
I
But
can't
yeah,
believe I've
Paul.
just spent an
Yeah.
hour with you talking about perfumes.
And others and
You've got
tattoos.
to
No,
understand.
annoying.
I rarely talk about this stuff, but I think it runs deep with everybody. These sorts
Yeah, I
of
think it
issues,
does.
don't they?
Yeah,
They appear to be small, but the
yeah.
roll-on effects of them are considerable. Because, oh, look at him. Oh, look at. Oh,
Yeah,
God.
yeah.
You
It
hear it all the
triggers
time, don't
us.
you? Yeah.
You do. I'm going to call this one the power of perfume, the power of parfum, because it is. It's a powerful subject. It's very interesting. It's not what everybody would talk about, is it? That's why I got excited when you said about it the other day. I thought, oh, there's something I'd like
Yeah.
to talk to you about. So we've done it. We've done it,
One
and
last little
we should,
point to
yeah, do
make.
some more.
One last little point. I was just thinking
Yes, of
just then.
course.
Here we are. We're using electronic media, right? So I'm getting sound and vision, right? That's two of my senses that we've got going on. But no one's found a way to create smell-o-vision, have they? You've
Not
got to
yet.
literally, it only occurs in real life. You can't electronically, maybe
No.
they will actually, maybe they'll come up with a box soon. And they go, oh, you can actually
Hopefully.
smell what's going on at the other. No doubt someone's probably already working on that. But at the moment, these are in real life situations, and
Yes.
smell can only take place in real life. We don't have an electronic way of masking it or mimicking it in any way at all. I think in cinemas, they used to have smell bags. Did you remember that? There were
No,
certain cinema things.
I didn't know that. Ah,
Yeah, when they were pushing with sort of, movie vision and these big screens and everything and 70 millimeter and stuff to try and 3D and lots of this, when TV came along, the cinemas were trying to attract people in. So they were looking at all this big stuff. I think there was one where, or maybe even been a radio show and stuff. You had certain things, scratch, right, open up number two. Now you can smell the sea or something.
oh,
Seriously, to try
scratch
and,
cards. You used to get, yeah, scratch cards in magazine for perfumes again. Scratch this
yeah.
and yeah, on a bit of card, which wasn't the same as if you're getting it from a bottle. But
Mm,
also, I know we should wind up, but I just now wanted to add this, because when you said about that, I'm thinking incense. I mean, I've got incense going in my house, and
mm,
also those little bottles, with those sticks sticking out.
yeah,
Them in my house as well. When I bought the house that I moved into, it had a fabulous smell. Partly obviously to entice me into buying it. And I would say to the previous owners, "So I said, come here, the smell is lovely. What is it? Oh, she said it could just be the flowers. I know it's not. It's those things in the bottle, those sticks sticking out. Because I've seen them all around the house since, and now the smell's faded she left them behind. But they are also toxic. Again, the incense, like cigarettes and stuff
Right.
like that, they are so toxic for you. The smells you're breathing in, not nice fresh air. You're breathing in smells. Just another aspect to it. So I'm just wondering how else we're being poisoned. But we want to be poisoning ourselves because we like the smell. So putting it on or inhaling it,
Yep.
not good. Right,
It's a big
cool.
topic.
It is a big
Even then,
topic.
when you just said going into the house, people make the house smell nice, it makes you want to buy it.
It makes you want to buy it, whether it's bread, whether it's these fake things in a bottle. Yeah.
Yep.
Paul English, thank you so much. Fascinating. Can't wait to see it at the next gathering
Yeah,
of
it's been fun, this one. It's been
like-minded
a little
people.
adventure for me, frankly. I felt
Yes.
it really has. It's been
Yeah,
just
it's
one
just a
big
chit
question
chat.
after another, hasn't it? It's been
Yeah.
wonderful, actually. I've really
Yeah.
enjoyed it, Karen. Yeah.
Thank you. It's likewise, and any of you watching this, with Paul English, who has a radio show on Thursday evenings, and you can join in and chat with Paul directly. But if you have watched this and listened to it and found it interesting or have any comments, please do comment because I think we sort of opened up a can of worms here. I think it's just quite interesting.
Mm.
So it is. So Paul, have a lovely sunny day. It's still sunny. Enjoy the rest of the afternoon, and I will catch you very soon.
Lovely. Thank you, Karen.
No worries. You take care.